Deepsea King will be the next SSR Plus character coming out in July, so here's everything you need to know about DSK and whether or not he is worth pulling for. So let's get into his attack skills. For his basic attack, he attacks a single target for 100% of his attack, and he has a 50% chance to inflict specialized corrosion, which deals 100% of his attack as dot damage. Now what makes specialized corrosion different from regular corrosion is that after any character's action it transfers the effect to a random target, and disappears after transferring one time, so it will deal dot to another enemy one time, then disappear. And for his ultimate attack, he attacks a single target with 5 hits for 1050% of his attack, which also triggers breakthrough one time per attack, and he has a 75% chance to inflict specialized corrosion onto the main target and surrounding enemies, which this effect will transfer across enemies and disappear after 3 transfers. And he will also obtain specialized guard by 450% of his attack, which adds an extra health bar, which is purple, and with every star visible representing 100% of his max HP, so he's essentially gaining a lot more HP. And if you have his keepsake, you'll unlock his ultra ultimate attack, where he'll instead deal 1300% of his attack, and he'll have a 90% chance to inflict specialized corrosion, as well as being able to obtain specialized guard by 600% of his attack. So his kit is going to bring back the dot meta, which is going to be very strong for a very long time. Now going through his passive skills, so for his regular passive, when enemies suffer dots, he deals bonus damage to all enemies by 60% of dot damage. If you manage to limit break him to 5 stars, he increases it to 80%. And if you manage to unlock his 5B awakening, he increases it to 86%. And for his awakened passive, he causes enemies who are inflicted with specialized corrosion to be stuck, which makes enemies unable to launch any type of follow-up attacks, and that lasts for 2 rounds. And after an ally's action, he has a 60% chance of triggering ultimate follow-up to a random enemy, which applies to both DSK and the ally in the same column, once per round. So not only does he stop enemies from dealing their follow-ups, but he grants himself and one other ally to deal their own follow-ups, and with the cruel tactic currently out, DSK will drastically change the meta. If you manage to unlock his second awakening, he will instead have a 70% chance of triggering his follow-up for his ally and himself, up to 2 times per round, which his second awakening does sound as strong as it does. It is going to be very OP for the many months to come. Now going through his enhancements, so for his talent page, I would recommend unlocking both of his talent pages, and from his second page, I would recommend upgrading his base attack, damage rate, and crit, and from his third page, I would upgrade his base attack, crit damage, and ult damage. Those should be your top priority. And then those marked inside the blue circles are also good stats to upgrade if you do have the spare talent points to do so. For his damage sigils, you can use sword or piercing sigils, or if you really have to, then using pain sigils is another option. And for his support sigils, use vitality sigils. In regards to his limit break, get him to 5 stars whenever you can, as you'll be able to boost his bonus dot damage up to 80%, which is going to make his corrosion even more stronger. And in regards to his awakening, get him to 5p if you do have his keepsake, as it does increase his bonus dot damage up to 86%, which isn't as high as an increase like before, but it's still very handy to have if you can do so. Now going through his gear, so for his gear set, the best set for him would be a fiery set, as the all damage boost bonus will make his dot damage very strong. Otherwise, the next best set for him is either a machine or ninja set, then followed by a martial arts, primal, or gunner set. And with those gears, you can build him in 2 ways. The first way is to have 3 attack percentage pieces and 1 attack crit percentage piece, as giving him some more crit will help benefit the direct damage portion of his ultimate. Or you could go for all 4 attack percentage pieces to maximize the amount of dot damage he can inflict, which is the more ideal build to go for. And for his buff gears, all of them should have attack, with your villain gear having 3 attack bonus and 2 flat attack, your grappler gear having either 3 crit and 2 hit if you have his keepsake, since he already has a 90% chance to inflict corrosion from his ult. Or you can have 3 hit and 2 crit instead for if you don't have his keepsake, in order to try and increase that 75% chance of inflicting corrosion from his ult. And for your demon gear, get 3 bonus damage and 2 damage rate. And if you manage to get an augmentation from upgrading your demon gear, they're not very important, so I would avoid them if you can, as bonus damage is definitely a lot more better, but a crit augment would be the best for him if you do manage to obtain such an augment. Now I'll also be providing some examples of what some lineups follow-ups can look like with deepseaking. So with example 1, Flashy and King can still be a deadly combo, especially with tactic cards, as I witnessed throughout the meta currently, is that you can be able to remove 6 energy at the very start of the battle, which is very annoying. So King is still a viable esper that you can use alongside Flashy. Now Flashy does speed up Atomic Samurai, because with deepseaking, his follow-ups can be used in 1 or 2 characters, more preferably in the meta, which in the first example, it's Goketsu, because they both inflict a lot of damage with their high HP and high attack percentages, and they both inflict breakthrough. So that is going to be a very strong combo to use, and example 1 is probably one of the strongest teams you will be seeing within this current month coming. Now with this second example, like I said before, it could be Goketsu, or you can speed up Deep Sea King. So now Deep Sea King and Flashy will be the 2 that are doing constant follow-ups. So Flashy will speed up Deep Sea King, and Deep Sea King will able to inflict his breakthrough very, very early in the match, which is going to be a very strong combo. And you can also use Boros instead of King as your second esper, and then Garnage is still a great grappler to have if you don't have any other sort of grapplers. So he's still a good unit to use for his damage reflect. He does act as a meat shield. For the third example, you don't need to use speedsters. If you don't have to, you can use a lot of breakthrough characters like Garo, Goketsu, and Deep Sea King. That's going to be fairly powerful, and you can still use others such as Boros and Carnage. They're still just there to support your team in terms of just making your team more tankable and make them survive for a little bit longer. Or you could go with the fourth example if you do have Atomic, but instead of speeding up the Atomic, you do speed up your Deep Sea King. So this is also another option you can do. And then if you don't have Carnage, you could use Garo as well. It just depends what type of grappler and or esper alternatives you do have, but this is also another solid team that people could use. Or you could even put Atomic and Deep Seeking in the same column, which I wouldn't really advise, because you definitely want at least one of them to be sped up. So that is also another option. But these are some of the examples of what some higher end players will have their teams looking like. Now in terms of some lower end player examples, so for example 1, if you do have Atomic, then you can definitely pair him up with Deep Seeking in the same column as each other, because that's just a lot of follow-up. Then you can use Sonic as your speedster to speed up both Carnage and Deep Sea King in the back row, and then you can use Phoenix Man as a temporary or your second, esper that can hide that Carnage from column attackers. So this is a solid team that you could see a lot of people using if they did pull for a decent amount of SSR plus within the last year that we've had of SSRs being out. Now with example 2, you could use Carnage in that same column as Deep Sea King if he is your second SSR plus carry, so that's going to be a decent combo as well. You can still use Sonic V2, which many of us got for free, as your speedster, and then you can use previous espers like RMG or even ATT in that slot. And then Fistfight Jin is also a good choice as a SR because he does grant 1 extra energy through his Encourage buff, which is very helpful when going up against Flashy, Watchdog Man, or even King users, because they do steal energy and you can gain that 1 extra energy, which can mean a lot. Now you could also go with example 3, where you can use ATT and then Butterfly DX. Now Butterfly DX is going to be quite a very useful SR unit that will be fairly common in PvE as well, especially for the higher end players, because his dot passive does stack on top of Deep Sea Kings. Now regular Vaccine Man does not, so that's why you won't see regular Vaccine Man in any of these team comps, same with Monsterized Chose. But Butterfly DX, his dot passive does stack with Deep Sea King, so you're going to be seeing this pairing. Just make sure you put Butterfly DX in the same row as Deep Sea King, or else it's not going to work. And then I also did put Sky King because that extra bonus damage passive, so it will help out the dot damage. So this is a very dot heavy team. So if you do have some of these units, and these SRs in particular, they're going to help out your Deep Sea King heavily. Or you could go for the fourth example, where if you only have Garo and then one other SSR plus being Deep Sea King, you can put Garo in that column just to get his specialized berserk for those in the front row. You can use other alternatives like Alloy. He's going to be a decent tank who can provide ult damage reduction to those around him, so it would be very good to use him as well. And you could use other units such as, like before, Fistfight Jin and Butterfly DX to just help support your team with extra energy, and then help support the dot damage inflicted by Deep Sea King. So those are what some examples may look like for the lower end players and their teams be looking in both PvP or even PvE. So going through the main takeaways from this unit, he is a super strong single target DPS unit, being able to deal 1300% of his damage, which is an extremely high number. He also counters follow-up units such as Atomic and Garo through his passive by being able to inflict stuck onto those that have specialized corrosion onto them. He also gains constant follow-ups to not only himself, but to his ally and that cruel tactic, which will make follow-ups even more OP, as well as drawing out battles for much longer with these long animation times. So that is the trade-off with these constant follow-ups. He will also begin the dot meta again, which is going to be super OP for the beginning of the Drive Knight era, having that dot being able to transfer across multiple enemies, and just thinking about having Gorobas or even Subterranean King inflicting their own dot debuffs. It's going to bring back this dot meta for sure, and it's going to be insanely OP. And finally, he is going to be super strong in both PvP and PvE, so his longevity will be very long due to his follow-ups and high direct damage output. He's going to be used even without as many sacks onto him as the months go on, as he'll forever be used in game modes such as Crescent Towers and in Honor Battle for when the UR era even comes out. So he's going to have a good longevity for quite a while in many other game modes. Now, going through a couple of his cons, he is a grappler, which can be quite a competitive type with others such as Goketsu, Garo, Carnage, and in future Tank Top Master, so he may be hard to slot into as a leader for your member training. And secondly, he does get countered by Metal Knight in the future as he grants immunity to corrosion, so Deep Sea King won't last forever in PvP, but still long enough to cause months of mayhem throughout the upcoming Drive Knight era. So should you pull for Deep Sea King? He is definitely a must pull for all players. Now, for free to play and low spenders, even if you have just about 180 tickets to pull for his debut, it would be better to play safe than sorry and skip his initial debut banner and pull for his rerun instead, as we are still unsure if Drive Knight's core will be released 1 or 2 months after Deep Sea King, because, well, Moonton are rushing this game heavily, and we're really uncertain if we're going to get any of these units on time, or this is going to be extremely rushed and we lose tickets because they're rushing it. So you definitely don't want to skip a cool character, so that's why I would recommend to skip Deep Sea King. So one option I'm going to advise is to pull Drive Knight on his debut and then Deep Sea King on his rerun. Now, if you are in this scenario and you still can't pull both of them, then the safest option is to pull Deep Sea King during his rerun and then also Drive Knight during his rerun and not on his debut, which, yes, I know you'll have to wait again another 2.5 months to use the most up-to-date core, but it is much safer to pull both of those units instead of having one or the other. Now, one last option I would also recommend, especially for players that just started playing this game, is to skip Deep Sea King entirely and then go for Drive Knights either on his debut or rerun, whatever you can get first, and then pull for Gorobas instead, as he can act as a substitute for Deep Sea King. Now, for free to play, I would not bother in trying to get his second awakening at all, with Moonton rushing this game heavily, but if you have been anticipating and saving your tickets for months and have, let's say, about 500 tickets, then if you want, you can go for your second awakening, since it is very OP, so I'm not going to judge you there, but that's entirely up to you. And most definitely get his keepsake if you are pulling for him, whether that be on his debut, or you can keep saving those vouchers until he comes back again during his rerun. His keepsake is definitely very important to get if you can get your hands on that. Now, for mid spenders, if you can spare some money, then his second awakening is definitely one of the few that are highly recommended to get. And for high spenders, you most definitely want to max him out and get all of his second awakening and keepsakes. Is going to be your main carry for many months, even during the beginning initial period of the Drive Knight era. And now I present the predicted SSR Plus timeline for global. So with the sudden rushing of Deep Sea King by skipping Gira entirely, everyone has been shifted 1 month earlier, so Tank Top Master should be in August and then Drive Knight in September. Now, we don't know if this is still going to be the case because they skipped Gira, so they might skip Tank Top Master. So this is where the gamble and why I recommended skipping Deep Sea King on his debut, because we don't know if Tank Top Master will be taken out of the black banners and then they put Drive Knight instead, which it's a really hard decision to make, but it's better to play safe than sorry. Now, with Gira, I decided to make some bizarre predictions, so don't take this information seriously, but I believe that they might start releasing new wheels every month, with Phoenix Man's long-awaited arrival coming in July, then let's say Giro's in August, and then even Subterranean Kings in September. Now, Pig God I predicted to be released through his event during now the game's second anniversary, which should be in September or the end of September, and then I predict Puri to be near the very end of the SSR Plus era and to finish off the year of 2024. So that's just my predictions, which can be entirely wrong, but that's just what I'm going to predict, and I think that's what they're going to do with the current rushing of this game. Anyways, that wraps up the end of the video. I'd love to give shout outs to all of my YouTube members, as you guys are massive contributors in making this type of content possible. If you're new to the channel and enjoyed this video, then please subscribe to my channel and click on the notification bell to stay up to date in keeping your One Punch Man account the strongest. Feel free to leave a like and a comment down below, and check out my Discord and membership links in the description for if you have any questions, and either myself or the community will help answer for you. So anyways, that's all for today, and I will catch you all next time.